Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, and MeWe. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
I understand you and Ash are having some marital problems.
Well, we're going on a weekend away. Maybe that will help. We really need to bring the boat.
That's a pretty great view.
I thought you'd like it.
You get the kid. I'll get the parents. And we're up.
What the hell is this?
3 systems, 3 servers, 3 different ISPs. I want you to transfer $10 million into 3 separate accounts.
Do you realize I could do whatever I want to?
She's here. Don't mess around, she's a trained archer. Shoot to kill.
When Reed gets back, she is going to punish you both big time.
Well, I can get pretty crazy too.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 485. Releasing December 8 in select cinemas across Australia is Avarice, a home invasion thriller that stars Gillian Alexy as Kate, a world champion archer who, while on a much-needed family holiday with her investment banker husband and teenage daughter, is subjected to a terrifying home invasion by a group of mercenaries. Kate must use her skills in cunning to outwit her captors and save her family. An intense watch of high-stakes and potent filmmaking, Avarice marks the latest film from Western Australian director John V. Soto, who I'm glad to say joins me now on the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. John, thank you very much for joining me again.
And thanks for inviting me, Matt. Really appreciate it.
So the last time you and I spoke was back in 2018. We talked about the Gateway, or as my US listeners will know as Alpha Gateway. It was around that time that you were approached with the idea of doing Avarice, and pretty much you were approached with doing like a home invasion thriller. What was it about that genre or subgenre of film, which from what I know of your filmography, it hasn't been something that you've really touched before? What was about that type of story that really kind of appealed to you, that you wanted to really get your hands on that type of movie?
Well, to be honest, I didn't want to do a home invasion movie initially. And the reason why is there's so many good ones out there. So it's like it's been done before. So The Strangers, obviously, Panic Room, even Firewall with Harrison Ford, Funny Game. So, it's been done before, and I've seen most of them, most of the films. And it was like, well, what could we do that's fresh and new? And so that was my apprehension. But after discussing it with Adam Enslow and Dane Millard, and later on another writer called Andrew Slattery, we kind of realised, no, we can bring something fresh here. Firstly, we can make it an Australian home invasion movie. Secondly, we can twist the table so it's not stuck in the one location, because quite often a lot of the home invasion films, it's just the house, and you're there the whole, virtually the whole 90 minutes. So my thought was, well, why not break out of the house? And what if we did like a reverse home invasion movie where, sure, the home, the family has a home invasion and there's things that happen there, but then the hero turns the tables on the bad guys and invades their home and goes into their home. So I've not seen that before. So I thought, well, that is fresh. The other thing that I wanted also was I wanted to have the hero have some sort of super skill. So I wanted everyone to be like normal people. They're not like martial arts experts and acrobats and stuff like that. I guess Panicrim's a good example where the mother doesn't really have any skills; she's just a mum. And however, in the film, to balance the odds up, I thought it'll be good if she had some skills with a weapon of some sort, and just to, because you're talking about 3 or 4, in fact 4 soldiers, ex-soldiers, ex-military that invade their house, and she's got to, in fact there's more 5, she's got to take those guys on, and it's like, well, she's got to have something to give her a chance.
That thing that is in the movie is that the character is an archer. She's skilled with a bow and arrow to the point where she's like Olympic level good. I mean, we see her at the start of the film just taking part in tournaments and such. The whole thing with the bow and arrows, like we've seen it in films before, everything from, your Robin Hood movies to Rambo to Hunger Games. The thing that I like about how you use it in your movie, in Avarice, is that those movies, whenever the bow and arrow is used, there seems to be like a kind of like a weightlessness to it, and almost seems like almost kind of like a supernatural kind of like instinct between the shooter and the weapon itself. It can whiz around. They never run out of arrows. There's a weight and a starkness to the use of the bow and arrow in your movie. When that first kill happens, it's like that, and it really shocked me just how quick it is. Yeah. And also just that there's that great sound design, just that thud that comes with it as well. And I really appreciated that. Is that something that you really wanted to have in your movie? You wanted to make sure that it isn't like some type of superhero movie, or as you mentioned before, like a martial artsy kind of thing. It's got to be something where it's the real world application of a real world weapon.
Yeah, exactly. Firstly, we had to decide what weapon she would be proficient at, and we did look at things like nunchucks and knives and even axe throwing and all these crazy weapons. We went through the whole lot, samurai swords. But we thought, well, in fact, I was driving past a field. There's a oval near where I live, and there's a small archery club, and they practice archery there, and that kind of just stuck in my mind. And so when we were discussing it, I don't know who brought it up. It might have been Andrew Slattery or one of the guys. We all were throwing out suggestions, and archery came up. But I definitely love that idea. Let's make it archery. But again, as you said, we don't want it to be like the ridiculous archery in Hawkeye, where you get any archer will tell you that 99% of the stuff he does there just doesn't work. The real physics don't work, and it's nonsensical. I want it to be grounded in, for instance, in the film with archers, in the film that the hero has to assemble her bow. Archers don't walk around with a full strung bow on their back and just have it handy. They can just use whenever they want. What they do at the end of the archery tournament or competition or practice, they disassemble their bow. They take it all apart. They pack it away. So in the film, you'll see her actually put the bow and arrow together. So she does. So she had to have lessons to learn how to do that really quick. But you can do it in about a minute or minute 90 seconds. It's a bit of work because you've got to assemble the bow, and then you've got to string the bow as well, and tighten the bow and do the tension on it and stuff like that. So there's I wanted to bring a reality to it, and it's pretty much I think in a real world situation that's exactly how it would go. Like if you're in a house and someone fires an arrow at you with one of those those bows, they produce an incredible amount of force. Yeah. And fires that at you and you're like 2 meters away or 3 meters away, it's going to take you out. So we try to make it as realistic as possible.
Those bows also have a bit of a weight to it as well. My older brother, years ago, used to have a proper size kind of bow. And a couple of things I was surprised by is, number one, the weight of it.
Yes.
And also number two, when you pull the cable back, people think it's string. It's not string. It's an actual thick cable, and you have to try to you have to really kind of pull it down. I'm doing this on video, so people won't be able to see.
Yeah.
But like you have to hold it down. You have to kind of lift it up with as much pressure you can, maintain that pressure as well with that arrow down. I mean, it takes some time to do it. So when it comes to Gillian Alexy, who plays the role of Kate in the archer in the movie, has she had any experience before using a bow and arrow, or was this kind of like the first time getting into that kind of not only the getting used to the physicality of the weapon itself, but also there's a certain amount of what's what I'm looking for, concentration and focus that needs to be applied to as well, because I've let go of a cable before without a bow on it, and that thing almost took my nose off because that's some thrust that goes past you.
Oh, yeah. So firstly, no, Gillian had no experience in firing a bow and arrow. And so we had to have training. So we had professional archers who trained her for about 2.5 weeks. So she had quite a few hours of archery practice. And the second thing was that she was doing proper competitive archery like training. So she was shooting at targets that were about 50 meters away, and she was doing that day after day, hours and hours and hours and hours of that. And she was towards the end of her training, she was actually hitting bullseyes, which was like they said to me, "Hey, we've not, this is such." She has picked it up so quick. They're like, she's probably got a future to being a professional archer if she wanted to. The other thing, though, with it, and as you said, that string, the force that comes off it, and it's actually you can actually get quite a few injuries on your arm. So the arm that holds the bow, not the arm that pulls back the string and the arrow. When you release the arrow, the string will go across your arm, your forearm, and poor old Gillian, like I wasn't aware of this. I didn't know about that. I'd done archery once, but not like literally, I think it was just like at some fair down south. I did it for like 20 minutes. But she was really badly bruised on her forearm. Like it was pretty much black and blue all the way along her arm from the string. And that's even because you wear protective covers on the left arm. So no, she was an absolute, like she dug in. She was a trooper. She just kept doing it, kept doing the training regardless of what the pain. She also said it. I mean, you're right about they're not light. They're not like, it's not like balsa wood. It's it's steel. It's a steel bow, or aluminium, but still very heavy. You hold your hand out with it. You just get like a 1 kilo weight. Hold your hand out, your arm out straight, and see how long you can go. You can probably go maybe 4 or 5 minutes, or even not even that, and your arm's really sore. So she had to deal with that. So she had very sore muscles, shoulders, back, and her arms. But she did it. So that's why I'm so proud of her as well, that she took it on, and probably naively, I think, didn't think it would be as difficult as what it was, but she delivers on it. And it looks real. Her archery is real. So we had the archery consultants advise us all the way through on the film.
Absolutely does. I mean, and that's the thing when watching it. When you see Gillian with that bow and arrow, it looks like it's something that she kind of like maybe like sleeps with at night. It seems like a weapon of obsession almost, because it's almost like an extension of her.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to. That's exactly what the impression I wanted to give. That's her thing. That's her focus. In fact, it's so much her focus. It's causing issues in the family, which is part of the story.
Yeah.
And it's like she's so obsessed with her archery, much the same way that Ash is obsessed with money and closing more deals and making as much money as he can, that they're ignoring their daughter. And that is, again, one of the keys to the story.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon. The world's leading online store, Amazon is your first stop to buy a wide range of products at competitive prices with fast delivery times. Amazon is also a world-class entertainment hub that includes Prime Video, Audible, Twitch, Amazon Music, and more. Sign up with Amazon today and experience the best in online shopping and entertainment. Please support Matt's movie reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. The casting of Gillian is really interesting. So she's been in the US for a little while now, doing TV over there, in a bunch of big shows. She was in Damages and NCIS and a bunch of others as well. COVID hits. Pretty much industry shutdown. She has to come back to Australia, and she lives in Western Australia, which is like your backyard pretty much. And that is when I imagine you probably reached out to her and gave her the script for the film. Is that right? Or something?
Yeah, that's exactly right. She and her family retreated from LA because things were going crazy over there in early 2020. Because lockdowns and protests and masking and obviously the fatalities from it, because it was it wiped out, unfortunately, it wiped out a lot of people. So they decided to retreat back to WA. We had a strict border closure policy, and our great Premier, Mark McGowan, had it under control. So life was relatively normal here, and we carried on normally, except when it came to the shoot, we had to obviously mask up so we didn't infect one another, and then had to go through a lot of rigmarole of all the COVID testing, because this, it's a sneaky virus. So you might think it's not there in the community, but it's pretty much, it is there lurking, and it can shut you down, and it can, and a lot of actors have been on films. I've heard lots of horror stories from the US and Europe where films have been shut down halfway through or a third the way through in production, and the actor's like super sick and they can't go to set, and so the film has to stop. So yeah, COVID is a nuisance. But on the bright side for us, it brought Gillian back to Perth, and she just happened to enjoy the script, love the script, and then I managed to secure her, which was really exciting.
What's really interesting about your film, about Avarice, is that not only do you have a protagonist as female, but your main antagonist is female as well. You don't see that much. Usually, it's kind of like a battle of the sexes, and like the female protagonist has to rise to match the strength and all this other stuff with the male. In this case, though, you have Alexandra Nell, who plays the role of Reed, and she's really kind of like this hardened military woman, to the point where like she's pushing around her muscle-bound goons all around the place, and they don't want nothing to do with her. They're like, don't mess with her. She's crazy. Just do what she says. And it's a really interesting performance because it seems like it's a character who has a really strong background to her. She has scars on her face. There's a certain demeanor towards her. Do you and Alexandra talk about backstory in regards to the character, especially in regards to the application of like physical wounds? Like, is a scar on the face kind of applied to some type of military espionage kind of thing that might have happened somewhere in the world, and she wears it proudly?
Totally. Yeah. There's a whole there's quite a big backstory for her. So she was an Australian soldier, and she was stationed in in the Middle East, Syria, and was involved in some operations over there, and got captured and got tortured. But one of her super skills, so you can't have no skills. Firstly, she's good with a knife. You might see, and she pulls that out at certain times. And she's also, like most of the antagonists in films, and some of these films, she's damaged goods. So she's psychologically unbalanced. And you'll see that there's a scene there where they have after Gillian suffers a major loss, and she's confronted by Reed, who's like menacing her with a gun. Her kind of weirdness and unhinged personality comes through, where she said, in another life we could be friends. And it's like, well, and then Gillian's like, there's what, are you crazy? And she is. She's psychopathic and she's unhinged, and it's very much that was, I think, very much her. What happened in the Middle East to her had messed her up, and she is out for. You don't want to mess with her because she will kill you. As simple as that. I wanted someone. You can't have a weak antagonist and a strong protagonist. It's very difficult, and I didn't want to have a guy like. She's got her goons, her bodyguards. She doesn't need bodyguards. She's got her mercenary team, and those guys don't muck around. They're pretty hardcore. They're afraid of her. She's unpredictable, and she runs them really well. And then above her, obviously, there's someone else. There's Riker, who's pulling the strings, and who is also ex-military, who essentially recruited everyone for the home invasion. I won't say anymore, but that's she. I thought it's important to have. I'd liked the idea of having a female antagonist and a female protagonist.
I think kind of similar with what happened with the Gateway. This movie Avarice has been released in like other territories outside of Australia first. So you're pretty much almost everywhere now. North America, I know you're over there, but you for places like certain European, like UK, I'm pretty sure, and Singapore and such.
Germany,
When you decide in regards to distribution, how important is it to get that movie out to the international markets first? Because I don't know about you, but it seems to me, and it's a shame, it really is, that unless there's an Australian movie that pushes some type of, I don't know, message or trying to do some kind of arty kind of thing, there's no backing of it. And when it comes to kind of like the genre films, those are the films that kind of like do well overseas, but not so much in Australia for some reason. And the shame of it is that it's a genre of films, past and present, and probably in the future as well, that put Australian filmmaking on the map. All the way back to Mad Max, to Wolf Creek, and everything in between and afterwards.
Yeah.
Those films that delve into the horror and action and sci-fi, those are the movies that kind of put our filmmakers to the map and our industry to the point where genre filmmakers in big studios are coming here to film the movies because we have the resources and the crews, right? But how important?
Well, that's the irony.
Exactly.
That's a very ironic thing. And what you're saying is exactly right. Yeah. So George Miller, his first film was essentially an apocalyptic, action horror film, really, sci-fi apocalyptic, film. And you're right. There's a lot of films like that. Wolf Creek is another good example. There are many. There are Razorback. I mean, there are literally dozens, hundreds of films like that. But our film funding bodies. Now, look. I will say that the state film funding bodies are that they are far more flexible, and we got support for this film from Screen West. They loved the project, they liked the script, they said, you know what, we're going to back this, and they did back the film. So I'm very appreciative of Screen West. They're fantastic, and they've supported. They've got a track record. They've supported Ben Young's Hounds of Love and Zach Hilditch's film These Final Hours. So they support genre films.
Yeah,
which is probably different to some other states. Federally, it would be nice for Screen Australia to support more genre films, but at the same time, I say that, but they are starting to. So I have seen, and they have in the past. I mean, obviously the Babadook, and there's a few others. They have supported genre films, but it does seem to be predominantly dramas and, as you said, films like that. Look, at the end of the day, I think Screen Australia, I think it has to kind of be seen to be supporting Australian culture and films like that. But it'd be nice if they could tip the balance a bit more to genre films. That would be great.
Well, it's really great that Avarice is being shown in cinemas across the nation. Have you had a chance to, watch with an audience, with a cinema audience?
Yeah, we had a screening because obviously it played at Cinefest Oz in Perth, and I watched with the audience there. They loved it. They really enjoyed it. Lots of people came up to me afterwards and asked questions about the movie. The film has played overseas. Actually, it played in Canada at the Montreal Film Festival, Independent Film Festival, and it won Best Thriller, so that's pretty cool. And look, at the end of the day, I want to make films for the widest possible audience, not just Australians. Obviously, I'd like to get as many Australians to go see my film as I can, but you want the film to travel and be seen overseas. And so far, the film, and for that to happen, international distributors are the gatekeepers to how successful your film is internationally. And for Avarice, our sales agent has pretty much sold the film to just about every territory in the world. So it's Germany, being released in Germany, Turkey, Japan, South Korea, USA, Canada, Poland, the Middle East, just goes on and on. Portugal, France, Spain, so South Africa, Philippines, Indonesia. I can go on. It's they like the film. They can see that the average person will enjoy it and chuck it on the TV or watch it in the theatre, because we've got a couple of countries that are releasing it in theatres. So for myself, that is a nice tick. Great. I made a film that distributors think people in the world will enjoy, and so far it's doing well internationally.
And now it's time for Australian audiences to get out there and watch Avarice, when it releases December 8 in select cinemas across Australia. I really recommend when people check this film out. If you'd like to watch a really intense, entertaining action thriller movie. Really good performances as well. I forgot to mention Luke Ford's in the movie, Nick Atkinson, Priscilla Ann Jacob as well, Victoria Fleury. I mean, a lot of people who are in this film all do a really good job. Ryan Paniza as Kane, a mercenary.
He's great.
He did a really good job in the movie as well. But I recommend everyone check out this movie. Watch it in a cinema, because especially not only is the photography great, but I think the sound design is really good in this movie as well. When I first saw the first kill with the bow and arrow with the thud, I went pop out of my seat because it was just the impact of it. I think what surprised me more than anything was just the natural kind of the sound towards it. It wasn't anything that was heightened in any way. And it was I think it was just a really fantastically shot scene, as many others are in the movie. And John V. Soto, thank you so very much for your time. Congratulations with the film.
Thank you.
I know it's been a few years since the last film. I know you're working on a supernatural thriller right now. Is that correct?
Yeah. I've got a supernatural thriller. I've got a UK. I've already got a UK and a US distributors that want to pick it up. So but when it's ready, I like working on the script and really thinking it through and making it as good as I can before we go into production. But I'd like to get that one up hopefully next year. As you said, it'd be great for fellow Australians to support an Australian film. And quite often you hear the complaint, I don't want to go to watch that Australian film because it doesn't appeal to me. It's a drama, or it's about drug addicts. This is a film which is appealing to a lot of Americans and a lot of international audiences. And I think it's a film that Aussies will enjoy, and they should be proud we've made this in Australia. It's 100% Australian. Every aspect is Australian. So, it'd be nice if people could come out to support the film and watch it in the cinema. And don't wait for DVD or not DVD, VOD. Please, in the cinema.
Yes, I highly second that as well, and recommend people do check it in the cinema. Watch it with our fellow Australian cinema goers. Watch it for the performances, the sound design, the excellent action shots, the great POV shots throughout the film as well. It really works really well. And John B. Soto, thank you again for your time, and congratulations.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Cheers, buddy.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.